is now I'm going to have to redo completely that one with a wave, because now I realize that if I was to do it properly, the undertone area would have to be evenly separated, but the whole overtones area would have to be calculated carefully to create differentiation between the distance between them. And there are profound ramification on all of that. For example, the first one that I can show you simply is nobody is ever being able to explain coherently why the 7 notes in so many scale. But if you look at it and you compare it to also what the ancient people use, is they never had a bass note and then you went up like do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do. It was not like that. It was a center note and you went down, back to the center note, up, and so it was a center note. And when you consider undertone and overtone, then you'll see that it's just a little bit difficult because my circle is not too big. There should be one more color before we get to the next octave. So if you look at how many color, imagine that there's one more color here. You will have 1, 2, 3, 4 color on that side. And then of course that's the same, and on that side you would have 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and the main color is 7. 3 overtone, 3 undertone, and the main tone. And immediately the 7-tone scale become very easy to understand. So that's an application in music, but I think there's application in physics and in mathematics, because it shows an interplay between dividable and multiple that happen directly in energy. So yeah, and of course, point that is in reality, each time you do a sound, it's never a pure sound. So nothing will ever be like this. You can imagine that they start doing its own, so that's why I do sometimes play with making them very complex. I would like to make one super complex if I have the time.
But this also shows the implications in art, as well as music and physics. And
it could have some serious. I mean, I didn't think about every direction that could go, but I think it's a super important thing.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is that everything on that page is not just there aesthetically. There's a reason for everything to be.
Yeah, so it's never been intended to be art. It's just intended to be an approach to comprehension of certain aspect of music. This is not the best. One good one is those. Some of them were still very experimental, and some of them were all prototype. This one, the last one, is good. The blue and green there, because you also really have an explanation with the void. The void is such an important thing.
Explain the void then.
Well, it's because basically what the reason for which you hear a note is because you don't hear the other one. Because at the moment you create that frequency, in fact, what you do, you eliminate all the other ones. So the reason that you hear it is because there's an elimination of everything around it. And so the void is in some ways more important than the note itself. So that's it.
Wonderful.
So I'm so glad that Raymond, that I was able to show that to you, because I wanted you to understand that type of work that I've been involved with.
So when one sees illustrations from the Renaissance, the Celestial Monochord and Flood and John Dee, this is the Pythagorean system that they're dealing with, these proportions, the harmonics.
They weren't, they didn't have the knowledge we have really about the length of, so they couldn't go that far. They had understood already, because people that used monochords had fully understood the harmonic theory, and they realized that it was matching certain distance that they could see in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
So they used those proportions to pinpoint certain place in the sky, and it worked. They started finding planets exactly where they had predicted based on those proportion taken from, but nobody really worked on undertone because they have been used in music. For example, the didgeridoo can do it, and specifically healing medicine. A lot of people that used music for healing, they did
bowls and gongs and bells.
A lot of things that that can create those very low vibration can do that, and but the understanding of it, people doesn't seem to want to work on a proper theorization of what it is. For example, Stockhausen at the beginning of his course dismiss them completely, immediately. Say, we know that there's something, but really we don't hear them. So
he dismisses what?
The undertone.
The undertone.
Yeah.
What about Indian music? Does this exist in ragas and in?
I'm suspecting that great musician, for example, even you see Bach, when sometimes he makes you hold a note in the bass, and then he make you play. Clearly, is already trying to use something that he hears. So I suspect that people that listen and think about music have always been working with some aspect of it. But it's mostly being able to arrive to a proper understanding that is lacking, a proper theorization of what they are and what they do, and what is their function. It's, for example, I suspect that when you do those sound, you see when you go on when you record, there's something they call the envelope. It's something that they really, it's annoying because as soon as a person starts singing or the person in the microphone, there is a kind of a shh, and they have to create an envelope to prevent that thing from happening.
Interesting.
And so it's more smooth. The entrance is more smooth. And my impression is because at the moment of impact, there's immediate dissolution in every direction. That's what we see with those perfect. It's a form of dissolution, and it creates like a support for the rest. And so that's.
Has this changed the way you play music or compose,
It gave me
improvise?
some great scale.
It gave you different
For example,
scales.
that scale, you see the scale like that. Because you get also this chord that you don't get in a regular scale, you get the augmented one. This is a scale that gives you the major, the minor, the diminished, and the augmented one. So it has, and I found that when you use that scale, it's very to improvise with just about anybody. It is a simplification, and if other people use it with you, you can flow like this for a long time.
Are there any musicians who you think have a particular understanding of this intuitively? Will you hear it?
Again, there are some people, really great musician now. One of my favorite person, but she went very technical because she was the daughter of a scientist, Mary Kimara. She's a violin player. And when she was practicing, trying to making not too much noise in her little apartment, she started developing a technique that on a violin she would play on like if it was a cello. And she developed a whole technique on an undertone. And she happened to be a daughter of physicist. And so it set her on that. She was even invited at UCLA for they use these photographies that takes so many pictures per second to try to understand what was going on, because they were trying to to tackle that phenomena, and I don't think they fully tackled it. And I don't know that there is. I really don't know how far they went in that direction, but from what I know from Mary, there's never anything like this that ever transpired from it. And then there's Mark Dresser, but a lot of people that Mark Dresser is a double bass player and he does also things like this, but Mark Dresser has a very spiritual approach, so he feels this is like something of God or
Right.
something. So questioning is not something he's inclined toward. He has discovered that and he lives it, and you know.
What about Gurdjieff's music? Is he working with some of this material intuitively?
Not, I don't know.
No,
You
no.
know, here's the thing. I've been searching and searching and searching for years, and I've never found anyone interested in that specific. Because what I do is not imaginative.
Right.
It's curiosity,
Mm.
and I just applied everything that I learned little by little, and then I stumbled on that weird thing. And since then, I'm trying to explain to everybody, it's so weird. We got to take it into account. It's something about energy.
If
There's
you hadn't,
two directions.
if you hadn't gone visual with color and circles and shapes, could you have come to these conclusions?
No, that's why I made all my mistake in the wave.
Yeah.
It's only because doing it through the circle, you start having a different approach. Using the correct proportion, and you say, "Wow,"
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So that's what it is, and it still feels that I think it has to develop quite a bit. So I think that's it.